But it's time now to take a look at our power rankings from week one, really our preseason too early rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you see here, we had we had a lot of things going right for us, I um you know the the bottom 4 or 5 teams, I think, are probably right around where we thought they would be.
Mm-hmm.
And you know we had some things to mix up with the top teams, but let's take a look at how this 16 through 1 ranking is going to unfold. So at 16,
Any surprise? The Titans of Madrid.
San Juan now.
Uh oh, San Juan. Oh yeah, we gotta update that.
We got to update that.
You know,
Uh,
change the destination. I like it.
but we'll change the destination, but not on the
The
power
record,
rankings.
the record stays the same. Too bad he can't change the players.
Not the 16. So they're actually ranked 13th in the standings right now. And that's before we factor in what happened in at the end of week 6. But um, what have you seen from their performance thus far? They're not dead last in the standings, so maybe we were wrong about them.
Um, maybe we need to give them some credit. They were able to win some matchups, this year. They got spanked by the Phoenix. Um, they beat NY Killanomics. That was pretty good. They got spanked by the Gotham Danes. Um, were able to pull off an upset against the Beantown Bombers. I think that was just some scheduling luck on their side, and then they lost to Frankfurt Flyers, and they're looking to lose again to CBE possibly in week 6. So I mean, there's no notable victories there, nothing to really move the needle. So I need to see some more to the resume or to their portfolio to feel a lot better about moving that team higher.
Yeah, fair enough. Like you said, they've got a couple of good wins under the belt, but I think it's only a matter of time before this team sort of regresses to the mean. Um, let's look at who we have at 15.
15, we got Syracuse Sparrows. They're moving down a spot. We originally had them at 14
Mhm.
uh, in the week 1 or preseason power rankings. And they're sitting in the 9 position, but we don't buy that. we don't we don't buy. We sell that, and we're selling it. We're selling it. Hard on deep discount.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, it's interesting that they are ranked ninth in the standings. Last week they played my team. I expected a big win, and due to scheduling and some interesting things that happened during the week during that week 5, we ended up being tied. Now, I'm disappointed. I think that was more about my team being a little bit more disappointing than it was, and his team played well that week. I
Wait,
won't.
wait, 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 wait. Sorry to cut you off. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
You had that victory. Wait, was there a stat correction or
there
something?
was a stat correction. There was a stat correction. Yeah,
Oh.
that's exactly right. There was a stat correction. They took away a block from Bobby Portis that made it tied in the block columns for me. But that's no excuse. We
Mhm.
should have won that. We should have won that matchup decisively. Embiid missed 2 games that week. Um, but Mitchell Robinson did not show up for me the way that I thought he should have. Actually, that week, Kyrie Irving had more blocks than Mitchell Robinson. Actually, he led my team with blocks, which is unacceptable. So, actually,
Wait, Kyrie Irving that just returned to the Nets like a couple of weeks ago.
yeah, that's him. Yeah, he had a 3 block game. Kyrie had a 3 block game against Cleveland when he came back and added two more during that week, and so he led my team in blocks, which is that shouldn't happen, especially when we're playing against Miles Turner. I need Mitchell Robinson to step up and do that. But I digress. Syracuse Sparrows has had some, you know, probably as much luck as we thought he would have during the season. He's lost pretty much every matchup except for Rucker Park on week 1. And week 1, so unpredictable, right? Things are going to happen in week 1 that you're not expecting. But two big win. I would call that a win for him, and I would call this tie a win for him. Um,
So the biggest question I have, right? Jimmy Butler is his star line player, right? Jimmy Butler returned Saturday.
mhm.
Can Jimmy Butler, get this team on the right track? Can they start winning some games and put a little bit something behind that number 9 ranking?
Yeah, it's possible, right? Because even though we're talking about one win, three losses, one tie, I think Jimmy Butler could probably make some difference for this team in those matchups, right? Most of those matchups, with the exception of the two of those, he lost by 4-5 in two matchups. Again, of course, the 4-4 matchup with myself, and then he won a matchup 5-4. So, and Jimmy Butler was obviously there that week. That was probably the last time Jimmy Butler was there. So we'll see what happens when Jimmy Butler shows up for them next week. Could be the difference maker. Let's go to the next team. Your
Let's
favorite team in the league
Yeah.
right now, the New York Clinic. We had them at 12 last time, and we dropped them down to 14.
I wish I could honestly get them down to 16, but I still can't deny the talent that the team has, right? I mean, this team has lost every matchup this week, but if you've got management that's really not doing the best for the personnel, that's the result that you start to see. But this team, will eventually get healthy, which it is now, and I think it'll start to get a couple of victories. And so I think this is probably the right position, right? The position that they're in the standings is probably the position that they'll end up being um, in the standings.
Well, as you mentioned, they've got a lot of talent on their team. They're 15th in the standings right now. They haven't they haven't won a single matchup all year. Um, and if this is a going to be a tank job, it might even they might even lose at that, because again, the roster has talent on it. It's got a lot of talent on it, and um, it's only a matter of time before they run up on teams that you know are a little bit more vulnerable. See, if you look at their strength of their schedule, they've had to play Solid State, they've had to play Bimtown, they've had to play True Grit, they've had to play Cranston. So they were bound to lose all those matchups, but sooner or later they're going to come across the Syracuse of the world, the Titans of the world, and they're going to definitely be able to win some of those matchups. So with the talent on their roster, they're probably not even going to be good at tanking. And
So
that's
so
just a bet.
you so it sounds like you think that they could possibly be in the playing game. You think they could
No, I
like
don't. I mean, their record is what it is right now. They're 15th, and I don't see that no matter how many times, I don't see them winning enough to bring them into the play, a play-in situation. But stranger things have happened. We'll see what happens with the teams in their conference, but I'm not hopeful. Um, they still got uh, teams like Beantown and the Killers and Phoenix, Great Danes, Solid State. We're all in the same conference, so it's probably not going to happen for them.
Well said.
All right, so we've got a double header here. In the 12th position. Talk about these two teams and what you see here with them.
Yeah,
Oh,
so we got Blake. Yeah, we got Blake Express and the Kings Landing. We both got them, essentially slotted in the 12th spot as far as rankings.
mhm.
For Blake Express, they made a big time trade, right, to get Damian Lillard. And Killanomics, rule number one, man. You're gonna go over the salary cap, have to put your hard-earned dollars, in for your team. You better start putting in some victories, or you better have a strong, path to get to the playoffs or to be a competitive team. And I don't know. I don't know if they got it. I don't know if they've got all that juice. I get why you do the move to get truly a superstar in this NBA league, but I think I think it's gonna be a tough path, man. I'm looking at a couple of the wins. They beat the Sparrows, they beat the Celtics, but barely, at 5-4. It's had some pretty miserable losses to Solid State and True Grit. This is the Blake Express and also Money Man. So, I just don't know on that side of the ball. And then I go down to Kings Landing, and Kings Landing, man, it's the same old story, win one, he loses one, right? He loses to Money Man, and, who could have predicted a 3-6 loss, but then he picks it up and beats Bimtown. Uh, you know,
Big
nail
win.
biter, nail bite, big win. Nail biter against Rucker Park, narrowly beats the Sparrows, and then, an unfortunate loss to True Grit, and it looks like he's going to go down to the Killers. Um, and so he's at an interesting crossroad where he has to decide, am I going to start planning for next year, or am I going to start, buying some pieces that give me an opportunity to win now? Because I think things can get really bad quickly, right? I'm looking at the next couple of matchups, and it's perfect because they play each other, right? So this is for who's going to be number 11,
Hmm. Yeah,
in my
yeah,
opinion, right?
yeah,
And then you got to play the Great Danes and then Solid State on the King's Landing side. I mean, we're going to find out what this team is made out of.
yeah. Again, until they address some of the lineup issues, I mean, even I look at some of the guys on that bench, and I just think there's a lot better they can do on the waiver wire. Knox is just, you know,
Just,
he
just say
doesn't
it. The,
he d-
just,
he
just say it.
there's no
The,
reason
the, Bro-
why Knox is on anybody's team at this point, and you just got to give up at this point. Like,
the,
what are you holding
the
on to him
Brooklyn,
for?
the Brooklyn Nets have a better bench than King's Landing. The Brooklyn mother flipping Nets. We just picked up Iman Shumpert, and I witnessed Tyler Johnson playing a basketball game
Hey,
today.
I like Tyler Johnson, man. I like Tyler Johnson. I think he's
I,
solid.
I used to, but ever since he's been playing in the big time, like his last couple of years in winning
Yeah,
Miami,
yeah.
he's
Since
not
he
it.
left
He's,
Miami, it's
he's
been
not it.
it's been rough since he
He's
left
not it.
Miami. Yeah, but I totally agree with what you're saying. I don't. I think both these teams have to kind of do some soul searching and figure out what they want to do. If they want to compete or if they want to tank. Both managers are very prideful. I think
Mm.
I think Blake Express, you know, would like to believe that he has a fighting chance when it comes to making the playoffs. And in his conference, I think it's possible if he goes on a streak. It might be possible. King's Landing certainly looks a lot closer to being able to do that, being that he's ninth in the standings right now. So again. like you said, man, they've got to figure out what they want to do, whether they want to be buyers or sellers on this market. Um, and they certainly have some pieces that would be attractive to a lot of other managers. Um, let's move on. The number 10 spot, another tie.
Between the Frankfurt Flyers and the Amherst Speedsters. Boy, were we wrong about the Speedsters. I mean, to our credit,
Well,
they made a trade to really shake up what we thought that roster was gonna be,
they
right?
made they made two trades.
Yeah, I think chemistry is very tough, right? And especially when you're trying to do it, with a lot of big pieces, that makes things certainly challenging. But to see speedsters in the 16th position, what went wrong? Well, you look at their schedule and they haven't won a matchup, Dane.
Hmm.
Doc, they have not won a matchup. We are heading into week 7
Yeah,
and Amherst Speedsters has not won a matchup.
yeah. It's they had a tie with Cranston. That was the closest they got, really. I mean, got destroyed last week by Solid State. But this week it looks like they're coming up on their first win, and maybe that sparks something for them, and they kind of turn around the season like that. As we mentioned before, guys like Michael Porter Jr. has gotten over his COVID issues, hopefully, and he's back in the lineup. And you know, you got Murray, who's hasn't been playing great. He's still not Bubble Murray yet. I don't know if he will be, but you, you got a few guys underperforming on the team when it comes to LaMarcus Aldridge, and then Eric Bledsoe has been up and down all year. So really, the only guys you can really count on are Shea, SGA, and that that's been it. Mikal Bridges is solid, but you know he's not like elite at scoring or elite at anything else but these real defensive stats. And even three pointers, I think I would have thought he would have been hitting a lot more, given his where he kind of sits on that roster with Booker and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. Just he should just be getting a lot of three pointers, but
Mhm.
uh, you know I only seen one really big 3-point game out of him this season. That was against Denver when he hit six. He had a strong game that game. 6 points, 20, six threes, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, he was all over the place. Assist, a steal, a block. He was great, but that kind of performance has just been like here or there. It's not been very consistent. He's not at that point yet. So this is a team that's just not ready to do anything near competing right now, and that's why they're in
So
16th place.
do you think Amherst Speedsters should be packing it up? Because I remember talking to this owner a couple of weeks back, and they were talking about championship aspirations, fine tuning, trying to make the tweaks so that they could make a deep push for the playoffs, right? So depth wouldn't be an issue, right? Like if there was like a big time injury and stuff like that. So do you think they should be changing their plans? Should they cancel that ticket? Is
Don't cancel any tickets. You definitely going to be going on vacation. Uh,
hmm
this probably sooner than anyone.
hmm
Yeah, I don't see playoffs in the picture for this team. It's right now again they're dead last in the standings, and it's going to take a whole lot of consistent winning to get over that. And like I said, as I alluded to previously, they just don't have enough consistent performers to really bring them to that level. So yeah, they should do what they do, really, really well, which is extract value out of other teams and,
Mm,
you know, trade their assets, and
gotcha.
start thinking about next year.
Well said. And then the Frankfurt Flyers. So the Frankfurt Flyers are one of the hottest teams in the association, right? So they started off losing their first three matchups, all with only, three victories, 3-6, 3-6, 3-5. And then they picked up, two big time, wins, 5-4, 6-3. And then what happens? They got to run into the Gotham Great Danes. Come on, Dane. Come on. Yeah, he's heating up, in the NBA Jam, once the person is
He
on
was heating
fire.
up. He was heating up.
Ah, man.
He was heating
He
up.
like
But we got the water over here. We got the hydrant over here to shut shit down because he ran into some big boys this week. You know what I'm saying? He had the Kyrie came back and put it on the map. We had the Brogdon and you know and Julius Jokic was out there. Um, we just got too much going on, man. For any you got to cut that fly shit out. When you come to Gotham, you feel me? Like it just there's just no with all seriousness. I mean, he came up no OG Ananobi this week. Kawhi Leonard was out for a couple of games. I mean, they were shorthanded, but I think on another, I look forward to seeing them again because we had them ranked probably around, I think it was like seventh or
Yeah, we have him
seventh.
seventh.
So
We brought him back down to 10.
this team, I predict that in the next few weeks when we do power rankings again, they'll be back up in the power rankings. Um, this team is a playing team. They've got too much talent to be
Mm-hmm.
to be out, and I think if their guys don't break down on them, I'm looking at Chris Paul, I'm looking at Kawhi Leonard, I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at marketing, and I'm looking at John Wall. Those are four big question marks when it comes to health, and if those guys, can't stay healthy, um, it's going to be a problem for them. But all things work well, they should be there. They should be right up there. They've got the talent definitely to do it. But this team has been hit with the injury bug. They lost Markel
Yeah.
Fultz.
Yeah.
Wendell Carter was never going to be. I don't know when he's going to be able to stay healthy. Um, he hasn't been able to do it, and even when he does become healthy, I don't know that there's a spot on this team for him anymore. Um, DeAndre Ayton looks like he's here to stay, and that's it. That's it. They have a chance to move up, but I think right now they are where they are just because of for health reasons.
Okay. Next team we got is Donegal True Grit. So, one random fact about True Grit: he's the only team in the association right now that has won every matchup, week 1 through week 5.
Hmm.
You want to hear another random fact?
Sure.
That that all changes come week 6 because he
Hmm.
loses 2-7. And I think that reflects how we feel about him in the ranks, right? This team is, second in the standings, but there's just something odd, something fishy, something doesn't feel right. I think at when it comes down to the end, they'll probably be, right around that 7-8 spot. But there's nothing that excites me when I look at the total calculus of that roster. Um, and so yeah, I just from a power standpoint, I just don't think they got it right. Right, and then what you do, right, when you're trying to understand why is it that you feel like a team is not as good as they are, right now in the standings?
Hmm.
Because you actually look at the teams that they beat.
Yeah.
and then you
There you
start
go.
to see a bunch of names that
Hmm.
are in the bottom, and that's what we're talking about.
There you
We're
go.
talking about university fantasy
Hmm.
basketball,
Hmm.
and you got to break down the analysis and what's going on.
That's right.
And like, if you play the Minnesota Wolves every week, I'm sure you'd be an undefeated basketball team, right? But what happens when you play the Lakers?
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
punched in the mouth. They got
Yeah.
punched in the mouth, Dane.
Yeah, man.
There's no more money on the table. No more money.
You hit the nail on the head, man. You referenced correctly that they've been undefeated so far in their matchups until now, and that's because they played a real team, the money men, and didn't walk away with the same kind of swag they came in this matchup with. Definitely not. Um, their toughest matchup probably before that was at Rucker Park, and at that time we both recognized that Rucker Park was probably underperforming at that point. So, good win for them. Good win for True Grit, but the quality of matchups there since that point. We're talking about NY, we're talking about Amherst, we're talking about Kings Landing, and those were all games we expected, matchups that we thought True Grit should have won, and they did. And so, kudos to them for winning um, the matchups that they should win. Doesn't always happen, but when you do it, it looks good.
Hmm.
But now they gotta, they come across their money men. Next week they're going to Brooklyn. Next week, the week after that, they're going to Frankfurt. So, they're gonna have to strap up because very quickly we could start to see how a losing streak could come up, and um,
Hmm.
and if they're not healthy, then we talked about Syracuse Sparrows. That could be a matchup that you know where Syracuse gets sneaky. I've seen them do it to myself, and I think they've got the potential for upset there too if the if True Grit doesn't come correctly. So, um, yeah, that's eight down in the stand, or that's one down in the standings from where they were last week, last time. But do you see them moving up or down from this point, or
Um,
just staying even where they are?
Probably staying about even, like plus or minus,
Yeah.
one spot. I can't really see myself moving them too much unless Jaron Jackson just comes back, playing like, an all-star. Um, yeah, it's just nothing's gonna move the needle for me.
Gotcha. All right. Um, Next team. We've got a familiar name right here. The Rucker Park Busters. Now, a couple of weeks ago, actually, you hit the Rucker Park Busters with some real talk, man. You let them know that, look, man, your team ain't performing where we think they should be performing. Now, what are you seeing from them these last 2 weeks since that time you gave them a talking? What's been going on?
They've they've been called. I mean, they've been crawling and scratching. They've been, figuring it out, right? Like, they've been doing it in an uncharacteristic way. Like, they've really, picked up the right pieces off the waiver wire, inserted them in the lineups in the right spots, and they've pulled out some victories against the Money Man, and now it looks like they're going to pull out another one against Solid State. So
Mm, they're
it
down right
sounds
now.
like, oh, they're down.
They're down right now.
Ah,
They're down right now. So I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna get this one. It looks like it's done. Looks like the matchup is over. Actually, as I so
so yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, that's an unfortunate, but a 5-4 loss is a reasonable loss, right?
it's respectable.
Like,
Definitely
right?
respectable.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
and,
yeah.
and so I think this team has still got a long way to go, go, they're an extremely vulnerable team because they're only playing for about 5 to 6 categories, and especially in you know this special type of a season, it's very hard to kind of navigate a roster, in a roster like that, a roster constructed like that.
Hmm.
And so the Busters, I'm gonna need to see some more, Dane. I'm gonna need some, to
Actually,
see some,
actually,
I really wanted to drop them much further, but I didn't want to get too crazy.
actually, you know what? You may be right about this matchup. Because I'm seeing some conflicting reports on this matchup. Um, it could be the time we're in right now. Maybe Yahoo's updating some things, but I see 4-3, and then in another place I see 4-5. So,
Now the no, no, you were right. The 5-4 is right. What
mhm,
Yeah, because I realized Yahoo on the schedule, it only produces whatever the last end of the day score was.
mm,
So
okay,
I might have been saying some
okay.
wrong scores for some of the earlier
Nah,
matchups.
no, I think everything's been according to what it was looking like. Yeah, I agree. I think you know they're a ways down from where we ranked them previously. They were previously, our second best team, and I don't know if they're gonna actually live up to those expectations, but um, we definitely know that some of the guys on their team could perform better. And last couple of weeks, they've been playing with little or no Lonzo Ball, um, and maybe inserting him back into the lineup uh, since his last couple of games have gone pretty decently. Maybe that'll give them a little bit of a spark, but so far, I think number 8 is probably a good place for them right now.
Hmm.
Let's move on to this number 6 and 7. Got Beantown and Midtown, man. Beantown and Midtown, two teams that are look like they're neck to neck. They were the last time we ranked them. Um, Midtown's been hot. You know, currently number 3 in the standings. We have them here at number 6, or I'm sorry, number 6 or 7. So, what do you like about them, and where you think they are? They've both moved
Mid
up.
so Midtown, man, has just been a complete surprise, as far as, how well he's been performing so early on in the season. I probably would have had him a little bit higher if CJ McCollum, is still playing, but that injury kind of knocked him, a couple of spots in my ranking of that team. Um, but Joker's just playing amazing right now. They've won all of their matchups thus far, with the exception of the Rucker Park Busters loss. And so they're doing what it takes. But you know, you know, we mentioned this about yes, we
A true
mentioned
grit
this, True Grit,
might be a little bit of
and
fool's gold here.
might be a little bit of fool's gold, man. Might be a little bit of fool's gold. So, um, I might have got a little bit excited, with my with my ranking of Midtown, but you got to admit when you're wrong, right? That's a big part about learning, right? Like we're in the university, right? So it's very important to admit when you're wrong. And I like your spot a lot better. I think 8 is probably a better spot for the money, man. And I'll stop right there with my analysis of the money, man.
Yeah, yeah, extremely talented team. We've been saying it all season so far that they've got what it takes to really be competitive. But how competitive? And as you pointed out, they've been one of those teams that went on a 3 or 4 week streak, but came across Rucker Park and took their first loss of the season. And it looks like they've bounced back though, and have beaten True Grit. But True Grit, we pointed out their kind of the issues they have, and so maybe we shouldn't be as surprised about that win. But they won in a big way, as we thought they should have. And it's I'm curious to see how things get as they get a little deeper into the season, but for the most part, right now, I think the way the schedule is set up, um, this team is probably going to be trending, still trending upward. And it'll be a while before they plateau in the standing. So I still expect them to be a playoff team, and I'm gonna say eight,
Hmm.
again, between seven, I mean 6 through 8 is probably going to be where they end up finishing as the season gets down to the end. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that end spot. And then on the other side, we've got the Beamtown Bombers, right?
mhm.
KD still KD, right? And the Beamtown Bombers, they've been doing all right. I look at their matchups. They were able to beat both of our teams, both of our organizations. Took a loss in the battle of the brothers, and then had a not so good loss to the Titans of San Juan. And so that was a little bit troubling, but I mean, you look at this roster and I mean, it feels like the floor as far as like where they're at right now.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, I want to see more, as far as results,
Right.
in the matchups. But I mean, this could easily be like a top three, top four team, given all the pieces that they've got. But the
Yeah.
one question mark I've got, right, is do they have what it takes to figure out that one or that one piece, right? That makes it, basically the no competition, the no fly zone, the no team in my uh, stratosphere.
Yeah. With Kevin Durant and Zach Levine, carrying the bulk of the weight. Um, and then when they reinsert Christian Wood back in the lineup, things are gonna be, get better before they get worse with this team. So, I think right now they're sixth in the standings, and I think that is a good place for them. This right around where I think they should be, and they probably will end up staying for most of the season. So, nothing more to really add to that. I think they've done well, and given the lineup challenges that like many teams have had, they've been able to kind of weather the storm a little bit there. And uh, you know, you got they got an MVP candidate on their team, um, and another guy who's playing way above his ADP. So you know, I don't see this team slowing down anytime soon. Um, let's move
Number
on.
f-
Yep.
Number five, we got the Bimtown Celtics. I mean, they're sitting at the eighth spot. We came in to the season ranking them at third.
Hmm.
Um, and we're a little bit torn as far as where we see them at the moment. I've got them down at eight. You've got them ranked at three. Um, I'll give a couple of words as far as how I feel about the Bentown Celtics. I think everything went wrong, when they did that Julius Randle trade. Could you imagine this team if they still had Julius Randle? Because I feel like they just haven't been the same. They just don't got enough, Dane. They just don't got enough. And I look at the wins and losses, and they haven't even gone through playing some of the tougher teams in the association. And so I wonder if they can do enough to even make the playoffs. I'm worried about this team making the playoffs thing.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, it, it's tough. Um, this is the probably the hardest team for me to seed, because it's I could see them being all the way up here, and I could also see them being all the way down there. And I think consistency of lineups is probably the thing that's going to hurt this team, and it probably has hurt this team the most, and why you see a fluctuation in their um, in their schedule as far as wins and losses. Um, when you look at their current lineup, having injured Devin Booker, still was able to win their matchup this week, by the way, but injured Devin Booker, and then you've got Powell, um, who's gotten hot of late, hot, um, but really has been kind of below where a lot of managers thought he would perform this year. Um,
PJ
Rozier, yeah,
PJ Tucker in the util spot.
yeah, that hurts. That's gonna hurt. Um, so there's definitely some changes that are gonna be needed, and I don't know if right now it's on the roster. Um, I think, thank God that Enos Cantor is doing what he's doing right now, because if Enos Cantor was not performing the way he's performing right now, this team would definitely be way down in the standings, and be more accurately at eight. Now the reason why, and I'm trying to think, the reason why I moved them up rather than down, and I think that had to do more with the other teams around, and how they've performed. So I look at I'm thinking about Rucker Park, I'm thinking about Solid State, I'm thinking about
Mm.
um, all these other teams, including my team, and I think based on what they've done so far, um, being kind of like up and down in their performance, I just, I think they have they really had one bad loss, and that was to King's Landing. And they shouldn't have lost that matchup, but that was probably a matchup where Curry was doing something incredible, and Luca. I talked about Luca being before, about how he, just did not perform, was not performing well in the beginning of the season, and
He came in on that Joker and Embiid diet. It's the European diet.
yeah,
They go work themselves into shape.
he's still playing himself into shape. Now, is this team gonna be probably finished as high as we probably had them in the beginning? Probably not. But right now, I think where we have them at 5 is probably the fairest place to have them based on what we see going on in the standings. They just happen to be in a conference where um, you know their only real competition are the Money Men and True Grit. So, and Rucker Park, but Rucker Park is still climbing their way back up in the standings. So, you just got to kind of look ahead at Bimtown's schedule. That you know these next 3 weeks um is gonna really tell you a lot more about where they're gonna finish in the standings. If they, they've got Beantown coming up, they've got Brooklyn, and then Rucker Park. Three tough teams. So by the time they're done with those three matchups, you could have your answer. Um, you mentioned that you don't think they're even going to be in the playoff picture, and Yeah, I
No,
think
I think that was a little bit much. I think I want to soften that and say certainly in the play-in, but if I had to choose, 8 teams to make it, I wouldn't include. I probably would say they would miss it.
yeah,
They would lose in the playing game.
yeah, and I do think we'll know a lot more at the end of those 3 weeks. Uh, their next three matchups are going to be pivotal.
Agreed.
All right, we're at number four, and I've moved up a little in the standings.
Yeah,
And this is pre-trade we had my team at right on the cusp of being a playoff team. And now post-trade, we look pretty strong. Um, you know, I think I think four is probably a good spot, but why don't you give me your analysis of what you see?
Yeah, I mean, as you alluded to, like a lot's changed since the trade. I mean, you went from a team that, don't know if these guys are ready to take it to that next step, but will certainly, get me to the playoffs to, a core group that, they're here to win now, right?
Yeah,
Like you're led by the MVP Embiid, and there's no games to be played, right? And you can see that, right? Like, you've won, your last couple of matchups, um, and you know, like your team is not playing any games. I mean, just think about today. You put away the Frankfurt Flyers. 7-2. As well. I look forward to the next couple of matchups. Um, primarily because you've got the Killers in there, the Kings. Not so interesting. I expect you to easily win that matchup. But the Midtown Money Man, right? That's another good matchup. For Embiid. And the crew to show you know, the world, Gotham Great Danes is not a team to mess with. And I think based off of how those matchups go, I could see you easily, moving up, to the top spot, depending on how those matchups go.
yeah, agreed. Agreed. I think with the way we performed this week against Frankfurt, we're ready. We're ready. We're gonna be ready for Cranston. Um, and I think the matchup that I'm circling on my calendar certainly is aside from this week playing Cranston, it's going up against the Money Men. Um, I think that's a team that you know we're probably built very similarly. Um, you got Jokic going up against uh, Embiid, and I like our chances there, but we'll see. I think by the time we do this again, we'll be through all those matchups, and I expect that we'll be moving up. Let's move on to the third team in the power rankings.
Yeah, next at three, we got the Solid States. Right now, they're sitting at number one in the association in the standings. Um, this is a polarizing team, man. Like, 1 minute I think, they're untouchable, but then the next moment, I see like vulnerabilities and I can see, areas, where they're weak at or where, teams can beat them. And I mean, you kind of see it when you look at, their early success and some of the struggles, right? They've got some widely varying wins, all the way up. They've got a couple 8-1s, 7-1 victories. And, these are not the best teams, right? You're talking about the teams, down at the bottom. But it's still hard to win, 7, 8 categories, even against, a bad team. But then, you look at, them losing to my team, the Brooklyn Phoenix, as well as the Frankfurt Flyers. Unsure what's happening. Oh, they're gonna beat the Rucker Park Busters, so that's good for the resume. And so, there's just some concern that, yeah, I think they'll still remain, one of the certainly the top 4 or 5 teams, but will they remain in that top two, say top three core? So I think this is the team. If I have to choose a team that's probably going to drop out of that top five,
Mhm.
Solid State would probably be um, high on that list.
Yeah, they've really benefited from starting out hot, right? So their first week they won 8-1, the second week 7-1, and then they lost their next two matchups, but their when they won their third matchup, it was again another 8-1 loss. So they're coming away with these really big, differentials when it comes to their matchups, and it's boosting their position in the standings. So right now they're at number one, but we think when it's all said and done, they'll probably be closer to, the middle of the pack, 4 or 5 seed team in the playoffs, certainly, but probably not. And I go back to one of your buy or sell questions in week two, I think it was, when you asked if Solid State would finish number one again in this league, and I didn't think so. But like I mentioned, when they got off to a hot start, you know, anything is possible. But we saw that things kind of slow for them, and when they hit Brooklyn and got ran out of town, and then went to Frankfurt, and they barely, really didn't make it in there. They got a little closer, but it wasn't as decisive of a loss, but it was still a loss. And then didn't really bounce back until they went to Amherst. But we know Amherst is struggling right now. So how much stock do you take in that win? Rucker, they came with Rucker Park, and still looks like they're going home losing against quality teams. So next week they play the Titans, and then the week after that they play Beantown. So it looks like every other week they're playing a good team, then a not so good team, and they may seesaw for the rest of the way. And so we'll see where that brings them. But if their early matchups have been any indication, then you know I think you could be right. If there is a team that could fall out of the top five, it would be them. Let's move on to number two. The number two team in the standings, we have, moving down from number one, the Cranston Killers. What happened here? What was, you actually had them ranked the third position. What are you seeing here that made you feel they were, I guess, in a lower position than Solid State?
I really didn't like the tie to Amherst speedsters. Like, that kind of really bothered me. But thinking back on it, you know, they were struggling with some injuries, right? And they had some folks out with COVID, and players just unhappy, etc. Um, and they took a tough loss to my team, the Brooklyn Phoenix. However, I believe Tatum was probably out for that matchup. Um, and so there's just more that I would like to see from this team. They've got an important matchup against your Gotham Great Danes, um, Solid State, but that's a little bit further out. So, I really want to see how they do in those couple of matchups to figure out how I truly feel. Because they certainly have a lot of like star and firepower, and they've got a lot of depth. Um, but they're not as good as the roster looks on paper. If that
Mhm.
if that's making any sense. And so I think it's just a little bit of a mystery for me as far as like where I feel like the team should be, and I think it's because of all these moving things like from their star players. So um, that's a little bit of my piece as far as like where what I'm thinking about the Cranston Killers. But they were able to beat the Beantown Bombers, and that's no easy task.
I just look at it and say this is still one of the more talented teams in the league.
Hmm.
I can't see them falling out of a top three place, but as with any other team, health is going to be important for this team. If they can maintain their health, they got Tatum back this week. I know they're losing DeAndre Hunter, but I think having Tatum back is going to put them, um, put them back into the driver's seat. And I think they should be able to continue to stabilize and be around that top three status. So I think that they should be okay. Moving down one spot is not so bad. You know, but you know, I think when we talk about number one, just start out saying, Brooklyn Phoenix has been the more dominant team um, going into week 7. And what's really impressed me with your team is how you've been able to perform and do a lot of what you've been able to do in terms of winning your matchups without your best player. Um, so two teams that we consider to be among the best teams in the league. We saw you were able to hand them some losses. Cranston, you beat very decisively at 6-2. Um, you beat my team in week 1 and week 2 as well, and then you beat Solid State 6-3. Very decisive wins. Again, Carl Anthony Towns has only played what, one game this season, 2 games, um,
Two-ish, or yeah,
two and a
something.
half, something like that.
Yeah, something
Um,
like that. It's been a
so
tough season.
yeah, so I'm just I'm just impressed with what you've been able to do with your waiver pickups, um, and how those guys have came in to perform and help propel you to this point. You only have one loss on your record, and that's to Beantown, and there's probably a number of when you look at that matchup, it could have easily been reversed. I think you lost that matchup by two threes.
Yeah.
Um, and I think you did you have there was some I know Simmons wasn't in the lineup, I think, and not that that would help you in threes, but um there's a couple of things that probably didn't work out in your favor at that matchup, that probably were like anomalies. So um you know you're gonna take one of
Yeah,
those once in a while. So
yeah, and I mean a 4-5 loss. I mean, you're minimizing the damage, right? Like you're not going to always have an advantage as far as the scheduling
yep.
or health as far as with a roster. So if that's not to your advantage, if you can minimize to a 4-5, that's always a big win in my book, especially in this wild season. Um, the Phoenix, we've been fortunate. Like you know, players have been coming together and they've rallied around, despite not having, the top guy in Cat. Um, it's just, you know, hopeful that it can continue and we can continue to figure out categories to win each of these weeks because I certainly think we're vulnerable. We're a team that can easily fall, down a couple of spots. I think this has proven that our floor is pretty safe. Like I wouldn't see us moving, say, anything outside of, say, that fifth position in the power rankings, which is really good. But it's got me thinking, if there's any way, we could continue to move up that floor,
Mhm.
because then it'll take out any of the noise, especially as you get towards the playoffs time.
Yeah, yeah. I think you guys are in a pretty good position, especially when you get Carl Anthony Towns back. Right now, this is if this is your floor, it's very good. Um, yeah, sky's the limit for this team. I know that you've been looking at Simmons a lot lately. Sell something to the owners, man. What do you know? Yeah, you seem like you might be a little bit interested in making some moves. So
Uh,
what tell us? Why don't you tell everybody what kind of things you're looking for in the market, man, and what you be
yeah,
willing to what can someone do to acquire the services of young Ben Simmons?
yeah. So Ben Simmons, one of the original, rookies uh, on the Brooklyn Phoenix. Uh, he's just been having a tough time, fitting in with the roster. Um, he's given me, some lines that have been disappointing given the talent around him, and so I'm looking to spread into some other categories rather than being an elite in only a couple. So, um, I like what Ben Simmons is doing in the assist category, and I would like to keep around that assist level. But it would be nice to bring in a guy that's hitting some 3 pointers. I need some guy. I need a guy that's shooting threes, man, because Ben Simmons not shooting threes and shooting piss poor at the free throw line is not it, especially when he's not shooting 60% from the field goals. But, you know, maybe he's showing signs that he's going to turn that around, or maybe he's trying to get traded. I don't know what's going on, but whatever he's doing this season is not it. We're not happy. We're listening to offers. Call us now. Get on the phone, send us a text message, do whatever it takes. My people will speak to your people. But yeah, we're willing to part ways with him. He knows that, right? And you can see that in his play. So
All right. Well, you guys listening, send us some offers. Anybody looking for a building block? I'm looking at my lower tier teams. Madrid. What you got to say? Call them. Call them. See
call me
see
up, man.
see
I'm
see
here.
see,
I'm
see
here.
what you could do. Um. All right. Well, these were the power rankings after week 6. We'll be back with our recap of this week 6. And yeah, if you got any comments, please feel free to leave some. Let us know what you think about the rankings, where you think you should be in the rankings, or maybe if you thought we were a little bit off with some of our analysis. We'd love to hear your feedback. Um, until then, we'll see you. Good luck, everybody, and good night.